Marvelous!
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Marvelous, and I want to share my opinion with y'all. But before I get into that, I want to explain why this discussion even matters and why my colleague and I approached the topic from two completely different angles. We weren't just disagreeing on facts, we were operating from two different definitions of honesty.
Talking about
Just move. Right, you gotta answer the question straight up, Mo. We trying to get to a point. Like, you just keep shifting because you don't want to acknowledge certain things that you're saying, right? And maybe when you hear it reflected back to you from somebody else, then you kind of realize, oh, well, maybe that wasn't, the best thing to say, or maybe that wasn't exactly what I was trying to say. But just answer the question. Don't try to move to something else.
Okay, I'll follow you, Sharon. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me simplify it. Do fathers use fear as a way to get?
Yes, some fathers do. Yes.
What's up with you in this something?
Because I'm just saying. Yes, I'm agreeing. Go ahead. Yes. Well, okay. I'll say this. I'll go with you. I'll go with you. It's only because it kind of annoys me a little bit because it seems to be a narrative. But let's go with this narrative. Men are bad. No, men are bad. Let's go with it. Men are not good. I'm gonna keep that in mindset. Go ahead, continue.
So this don't have anything to do with anybody being
right.
No, that's the only way. That's what I'm hearing. You know the ones that are doing it. By default, that men are the ones with the fear.
Emma, you gotta listen to me so you can understand. When we having a conversation, we know nothing is 100% in totality. So there's no need to talk about, like I said earlier, the few that is on top and the few that is on bottom. We are talking about in general. So let's keep the conversation on general. So you don't need to mention anything about something because nothing is in totality. We know it got great fathers, horrible fathers, and then we got general fathers. Let's keep it on general. General mothers, general fathers. We're not talking about the sum and what other possibilities. You got way too many possibilities in your mind, and that's why you can't come to an answer and just be solid on an answer. I need you to just be solid and make a decision.
My colleague values emotional honesty. From his perspective, honesty means expressing how you feel in the moment, sharing your assumptions, voicing your interpretations, revealing your fears or suspicions, and putting your internal reactions out into the conversation. To him, not sharing your emotional assumption feels like withholding. So if he hears most men cheat, and emotionally that aligns with his experience or observation, then saying it out loud feels like honesty to him. In his framework, expressing the feeling being authentic, holding back being dishonest, guessing someone's motive, emotional truth. For him, emotional transparency is the highest form of truth, and that's valid for his framework. I value intellectual honesty. My approach is different. To me, honesty means speaking only what you can confirm, separating emotion from fact, recognizing when something is an assumption, and refusing to treat opinions as universal truths. I don't speak on what I feel if I know it isn't grounded. I don't treat assumptions as evidence. I don't turn personal experience into a statistical claim. For me, acknowledging I don't know is honesty.
Okay. So, and this is the part of thinking, right? Has anybody from the Ford company that took over from hundreds of years ago, have they became poor yet?
I can't speak to Ford.
Okay, you can't speak to Ford. How about Chase?
I can't speak to any of these companies, man.
Okay, what about okay, so you can't speak to none of this company. So what I'm trying to get at, that saying, think it through when you hear that saying and really put it into reality. In reality, majority of those people, when you give them the ball running, they keep going.
Avoiding exaggeration is honesty. Distinguishing between belief and fact is honesty. If something is unprovable, I won't speak it as truth. If something is emotional, I'll label it as emotional, not factual. That's my framework. Why this difference creates conflict. When someone defines honesty through emotion and the other defines honesty through accuracy, misunderstandings become unavoidable. He thinks I'm holding back. I think he's projecting. He sees authenticity in expression. I see authenticity in restraint. He He treats assumptions as truths. I treat assumptions as guesses. Neither of us is necessarily wrong. We're just operating from different systems. Why I chose to create this discussion. I started this discussion not to attack his perspective, but to highlight the difference between emotional truth, which is personal, subjective, and driven by feeling, and objective or intellectual truth, which is grounded in evidence, clarity, and discipline. Because when you don't acknowledge the difference, you end up with conversations where one side expects emotional validation and the other side expects logical accuracy. And those two forms of honesty don't always overlap. This mismatch is exactly why our disagreement happened, and it's why I believe this conversation is important. Now, on to the actual topic of discussion. Is it dishonest to reject assumptions? Let me clear up something that came up in the conversation. I was told that by refusing to project my assumptions, I was being emotionally dishonest. And honestly, that accusation doesn't make sense. And here's why. When someone says something like, most men cheat on their wives, that's not a factual statement. That's a generalization based on personal experience, bias, or cultural narrative. It has no quantifiable basis. You can't measure most men across every culture, age group, background, or marriage structure. It's an assumption dressed up as a statistic. So when I respond logically and say, we can't actually prove that, that's an assumption at best. That's not dishonesty, that's accuracy. I'm not going to turn an emotional conclusion into a universal truth just to agree with someone. That's not honesty, that's laziness. And here's the real issue. People often confuse emotional agreement with honesty. If you don't validate their assumptions, they think you're hiding how you really feel. But I don't operate like that. I don't speak on something unless it's grounded. I'm not going to call an assumption a fact just to make someone else feel more certain. Now, let's talk about the behavior behind the claim. Cheating does happen. It's common, it's damaging. But the problem has nothing to do with trying to measure how many men cheat. The real issue is human behavior. Selfishness, impulse, opportunity, entitlement, lack of accountability. You can't fix that with one statistic, one statement, or one emotional generalization. You can only influence behavior with norms, incentives, consequences, and personal discipline. And even then, you'll never eliminate it entirely because you can't regulate desire or enforce loyalty emotionally or legally. So here's the bottom line. Not agreeing with someone's assumption isn't dishonesty. It's refusing to lie just to make their argument feel stronger. My emotional honesty is not in projecting unconfirmed opinions. It's in staying grounded in what I know, not what I guess. And if people struggle with that, that says more about their comfort with uncertainty than it does about my honesty, in my opinion. Well, anyways, that's all I have for today. Please like, comment, and share. It would be greatly appreciated. As usual, peace and love, people. Take care. I'm out.